Hey kiddos, it's your dad here. I wanted to make this video to talk about if you're feeling different and that you don't fit in, why you should not try to, because by trying to fit in, you are just going to make yourself feel even more alone. And I know this because this is something that I struggled with my whole life. I mean, it's something that now at 30, I'm doing a lot less because I've accepted that uh, I just don't fit in. I've always been told I've got an old soul, and I've always felt that I never could really relate with people my age. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be older because I connected and a lot better with people who were, 40, 50s, 60s, and we could have really deep conversations, and I never felt like I could have those conversations with people my age. And now that I'm 30, I look at people that are my age and older, and I'm just like, I can't relate with these people either. So I've just kind of given up, and I've accepted that I will never feel like I fit in. I'll never feel like I fit in. And that is checking if you're asleep still. Because we're about to go to the mall and have you run around, but I've accepted that I'll never fit in. And that's okay. But I struggled with that when I was younger because I felt really alone. And what I tried to do when I was younger was I would try to do things that other people my age group were doing, and it just never, I would do things that weren't of my character in order to try to fit in with a group because I did feel alone. And when I was a kid, like let's say when I was 7, 8 to probably around 18, I would try to go to the parties. I would try drinking. I would try hooking up with girls. I would try, smoking cigars or cigarettes, or, getting into mischief, or I'd try to hang out with the cool kids, or I would try to pick up hobbies that other people were doing. I'd go to these parties. It was really what I would think was cool. I would try to do, and I had a friend group. I've always had friend groups that were kind of like the misfits, like the people that didn't fit in were the people that I fit in with. But I would always kind of fall back to trying to do the things that other people I thought were cool would do, and I thought maybe if I did these things, that I could be a part of it. And for me, I've always been better with one-on-one connections, deep personal connections. And the problem when you're younger is it's hard to have a deep connections with many people. So I could become really good friends with like one, maybe this like cooler kid, this popular kid, and maybe we would relate, and then I would go with them, and they would go to these parties, or they would do these things, and there'd be all these other people, and then I would feel I'd feel really weird, because I just couldn't connect with the group. I could connect with the person superficially, and I was very personable. And maybe I would try pretty hard. I would try hard, but that's also just my personality. Is I when I'm talking with somebody, I make them the focus, and I ask them the questions and make them feel special, and people appreciate that, and they typically will bring me in. But then when it comes to a group of people, that's when I always felt isolated because I wasn't connecting with a group. I was able to connect with the individual. And the individual would accept me and bring me in, but then when they brought me as part of their group and with these things, I never connected. And even as I've gotten older now, I've noticed that it's the same thing where I can really connect and relate with the people one-on-one, but when I'm put into this setting where there's all these people that I don't know, and I lose that personal connection, and I notice that the person that I connected with really doesn't care about thinking about me. They just care about themselves, and they care about their standing in the group. And for me, I always felt really weird if I tried to make myself have a standing in a group, I guess. And so that made me feel weird and different and isolated, and then the person's true character would eventually show up, and they would do something that would end up hurting me in the end. There's this example. I had this popular cool kid, this really good looking. He, always, he was a womanizer, and we became really good friends. We connected. I showed up, and we were friends. But then we as the relationship went on, it started to become, this thing reoccurred about the group setting and me not being important and him prioritizing other things. And went to this party. He ended up breaking a toilet at the party, and then the owner or whoever got mad. My friend jumps in my car, and then this guy comes over and punches my window out. And then so I talked to my friend. I'm like, hey, listen, like, you shouldn't have done that at the party, and can you pay for the window, because it was your fault. And then he was like, no, I'm not. And that, I was like, okay, done with this person. Like, I guess that was the tipping point where I had enough of that relationship. But so that's just an example. But even as I've gotten older, and it's not gone to that extreme, I've also noticed that different things where I have an interest. So maybe I have an interest in books, or in trading, or in business, or in YouTube, or whatever my interest is. I'll typically find a group. I'll find the people. I'll find people that I connect with. Now it's a little bit less of a one-on-one, and it's more of a typically it's a group, and then from that group you'll find people that you can become friends with. But even then, I noticed that in these group settings, or if it's like a group meetup, or like a mastermind or an event, those are where it's like, no, I really just I don't do well in these settings, because that's not where I do feel like I can connect. I feel like I can connect with people one-on-one. I can connect with a person, but when it comes to these groups, it just doesn't work. And I've accepted that now in my life, that I'm okay with not forcing a relationship to happen, or not forcing something, and just rather letting it kind of naturally unfold. And sometimes these things can start and stop. I've noticed in my life now, a lot of my interests, my closeness with people typically will kind of go with the interest. Like, I have my friends that I've had since high school, the misfit group. Not the misfits for like trouble, but the misfits of like, we didn't fit in. But even that relationship, it's me putting in the effort. Like, I reach out to them, we'll call, I'll update, and periodically they'll do the same. But I definitely feel like because of me and how I've grown up and how I was raised and how I value relationships, I'm always the one that makes the effort. And it's difficult when being an adult now, when you've always been the one to put in the effort for a relationship, and then when now you're an adult and you're with other adults and in different social groups, to always trying to be the one to make the effort, when I've also have my life. Like, I've got my kids now, I've got my wife, I have things that I'm pursuing in my life. I'm still very focused on business and growth and being present now, that trying to find friends and fit in has become lesser of a priority. And it does kind of feel kind of sad to say that, because you always look at people and you're like, man, it's all about having friends and social and these groups. But I look at that now and I'm just like, I feel like the lesson that I continued to have to tell, that I've learned is that these groups, these friend groups, these larger friend groups, it to stop trying to expect something or fill like an emptiness that maybe I had when I was younger. Before, I felt a longing for connection. With my family now, and with my goals, I have less of that longing for connection and more of a longing to just be present with the people that are in my life currently and showing up for them. Maybe that changes in the future. I don't plan on teaching my kids that you can't have friends or that you shouldn't, show up for your friends. Those friendships that I've had growing up were really important, and they were important at that particular moment in my life. But as I've gotten older now, not saying that it's not important, but the importance of trying to make something out of nothing is not important to me anymore. I recently felt, even with I was part of this group that we had a similar interest with, and I was showing up. I would show up, and this was also before I had kids. I was showing up. Now that I've had the family, and my time feels more limited. My focused attention is just typically spent on the work, and then when I'm finished with that, I just I don't have as much time to be able to spend on these interests. I felt like I was trying to maintain this group and this interest because I felt like if I didn't, then maybe I would lose that friend group. And the person that was part of that friend group, they we connected. We definitely connected, and we had a good relationship. But they were also very extroverted, and they like making friends with a lot of people, and they always like the attention, and they always like to be around, and that's their personality. Where me, I don't thrive in that environment, and I'm good with a phone call, a genuine just like interest, and more of a slow down approach. And that's okay. And I kind of wrestled with how should I maintain this? Should I continue? Because like this was like my first like grown up friendship. But I started noticing the feeling of when I was a kid, and that need to try to fit in because I didn't want to feel alone. And that's when I was like, okay, maybe I don't need to try to maintain this, and just allow it to just kind of naturally go with the flow. And if it's meant to continue, then it's meant to continue. If not, then that's okay too. I also have friends that I would from when I was in high school, and we have we don't have any similar interests anymore. We don't live next to each other anymore. We both have kids. We both one of my friends has a couple kids, and kind of similar in age, just a little bit staggered, but outside of that, there's nothing that we really relate with besides our escapades, our adventures when we were in high school. And I look at that as more just like a family friend now, and we don't need to try to maintain that relationship because we just have that relationship there, and I appreciate that because of that relationship, that it's not forced, and we connect and we catch up, and that's good, but it's not the image of the friends that maybe you see where it's a bunch of people and they're doing these things, and I never had that. When I was in high school with my misfit friend group, we had that, but now as an adult, it really just doesn't. It's not there, and maybe that's okay. I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to force it. So, being different, not feeling like you fit in, is not something that you should feel bad about, and allow yourself, if you feel that, to feel it. I think it's one of those things where you probably just need to experience it and live through it. Feel the highs, feel the lows, and then as you get older, your priorities change, and it becomes less about trying to fit in and more about yourself and leveling up yourself. Some people are definitely still stuck in that, or they're always trying to fit in. But for me, I shifted from a focus of a need for belonging to a need for personal growth. And when I shifted that mindset is when I truly felt at peace. So hopefully that resonates and helps you if you are feeling like you're different and that you don't fit in and that it's hard to connect. Just know that there's other people that are going to come into your life at different times, and they're going to be a part of your journey, whether that's your like, man, in my business, some of my business friends, we connected really well because it was a lot of personal development and growth, and all focused typically around business, outside of that, there was not as much to relate. And again, as I've kind of developed and having a family and changing priorities, I've kind of fallen out from that group. But again, that the people are there in your life at that time for that reason and that purpose, and maybe they come back into your life, and that's okay. But you don't need to force these things. There's a time and a place for those relationships, and feeling different is okay. So